Iran had a very solid history because they never backed down to any empire. Pentagon did something very unthinkable. Now, United States publicly revealed the location of its nuclear-armed submarines. That's crazy. So just hours after Donald Trump completely rejected Iran's latest proposal. And that's just not normal. So these submarines are designed to disappear, to stay invisible, to operate in total secrecy. But suddenly, America wanted to show the world something else. But why? Because this was not a routine announcement. This was a message, a very strong message from the United States. Now, a geopolitical threat broadcasted across the planet. And now the question is, was this America flexing power or preparing for something much bigger? So a lot of countries, they're talking something big might happen. Let's break this down. Why military experts are shocked, why Trump exploded over Iran's offer, why Gibraltar Island suddenly matters to the entire world now, and why Iran says it will never bow down to US pressure. But this situation is escalating super fast. Now, Pentagon made a very rare move. On May 11th, the US Navy's 6th Fleet publicly confirmed that the Ohio-class ballistic missile submarine has arrived in Gibraltar Island. Now, understand how unusual this is for us to hear these kind of news. But of course, it is frightening and also threatening from one side to another. So these submarines are among the most secretive military assets on Earth. Now, their locations are normally highly classified because stealth is their power. Now, an Ohio-class submarine carries Trident II ballistic missiles capable of traveling over 4,500 miles. It means these are floating nuclear launch platforms, silent, hidden, and deadly. The Pentagon never ever reveals where these submarines are operating. But this time, they wanted the world watching. The Navy called it a demonstration of America's capability, flexibility, and commitment to NATO's ally. But let's be honest here. The timing tells a real story because just before this announcement, Trump went nuclear politically. Now, Trump also, on the other hand, rejects Iran's proposal totally. Now, Donald Trump publicly rejected this proposal from Iran, and it called a total unacceptable, not concerning, not insufficient, not we're still negotiating. So totally unacceptable. Now, Donald Trump accused Iran of playing games with the United States while demanding Tehran, means Iran, fully abandon its nuclear ambition. So according to reports, Iran demanded sanctioned relief, access to frozen assets, and guarantees around maritime activity in the Strait of Hormuz. But Washington wants something much bigger, complete nuclear concessions. And tensions are already boiling because of this previous US strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities during the 2025 conflict escalation. Now, some Pentagon assessments claim that Iran's program was severely damaged. This is what they claim. But the other intelligence reports suggest Tehran may still be rebuilding capabilities. And now, suddenly, America publicly displays a nuclear submarine near the Mediterranean. Now, that's not a diplomacy. That's pressure, absolute pressure. On the other hand, it's totally a different case. Iran will not back down. But here's where it gets even more dangerous, because Iran is not a country that easily folds under pressure and just bow downs. For decades, Iran has survived. As everyone knows this, assassinations, sanctions, cyber warfare, economic collapse attempts, covert attacks, and military threats. It has survived all of this, and yet the government remains still standing and very strong. That's why many of the experts, they believe that Iran will not be intimidated by this submarine reveal, because Iran's strategy has never been about matching America ship for ship or weapon for weapon. It's all about the endurance, resistance, and retaliation. Now, Iranian president recently declared that the country would never bow down to the enemy. Iran's foreign ministry also warned that Iran will fight whenever it is necessary. And this is exactly why the situation becomes very terrifying from both sides, because when both sides refuses to appear weak, history shows escalation becomes far more likely. Iran has spent years building regional alliance, missile systems, underground military infrastructure, and asymmetric warfare capabilities, specially designed for confrontations of these kind. So while Washington may see this submarine reveal a deterrence, Iran may see this as a provocation. So if Iran responds aggressively, the entire Middle East could move closer to another major confrontation. Now, let's talk about this. Why they choose Gibraltar and why Gibraltar matters a lot. Now, because this location is just not a random location. Gibraltar sits at one of the most strategic choke point in the world and the gateway between Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, from there, the military assets can rapidly project power towards Europe, North Africa, entire Middle East, and the routes connected to the Persian Gulf. So military analysts immediately interpreted something different. The submarine's appearance as a strategic signal aimed directly at Iran. And remember, the Pentagon didn't reveal the exact submarine name, but they revealed enough for the world to notice everything. So, which means this was psychological warfare as much as a military signaling. So, a visible warning from invisible weapon, that's kind of very dangerous. So, are we watching the start of something bigger, or this is just a verbal threat? So, here's the reality nobody wants to say out loud. Major conflict don't usually begin with one massive explosion. They begin with warnings, signals, military posturing, power displays, and right now the signals are flashing everywhere. And these are all just happening in the world. So Trump rejects the negotiations. And now Iran also refuses to surrender its leverage. These both sides, they don't want to look weak. And Pentagon publicly showcases the nuclear capability just out of the blue. So on the other hand, oil markets are already reacting to this nervously of fear surrounding the Strait of Hormuz, and global tensions are just rising again to the highest peak. Okay, some analysts believe this submarine reveal was meant to force Iran back to negotiations table, but others believe it's a preparation for a future escalation. So either way, the message from Washington was crystal clear. America wants Iran to know exactly what's nearby. This is a clear message to Iran. But Iran is not backing down. And Iran will never back down, because if you go and read the history of Iran, the Persian Gulf, Iran had a very solid history because they never backed down to any empire. So now the world is waiting. A rejected proposal, a public nuclear warning, an angry Washington on the other side, and on the other hand, Iran is not backing down. So a geopolitical standoff that could reshape the entire Middle East once again in this 2026. So because one thing is very certain, Iran is not showing fear, and it'll never be. So, and America is not backing down. America wants to flex its power. Now, which means the next move could change every single thing. Now, what do you think? Was this a calculated warning or something beginning of a much bigger crisis? Comment below and subscribe for more uncensored geopolitical breakdowns.